Yes, indeed, it's a beautiful Tuesday morning, the 29th of April. April closes down on us gradually. Good morning. Welcome to your perfect morning starter right here on Channels Television. Let's help you make a Tuesday, your Tuesday, a great one. Welcome. I am Bukola Koka, and Jeffrey, of course, and Kadi are here.
Morning and welcome to the program. I'm Jeffrey Ozama.
Well, it's a beautiful morning here in the nation's capital. Well, the rain came down heavy earlier on, but thankfully we're dry. I'm Karaoke Kulu.
All right, Bukola, welcome back, by the way. And what have you been tracking?
Oh, well, there isn't much to track. Quite a lot to track, really, but you cannot ignore the political transition that the vice president chooses to call a political tsunami. It's official. Delta PDP has now joined the APC, and with the reason, whether you like it or not, whether you consider it strong or not, being that Mr. President has been good to Delta, hence it would not be good enough for Delta to work against the president in 2027. So we have it there. Well, will more defections be coming in the coming weeks and months? Well, from what feelers are saying, we just may be in for a lot more surprises. So whether or not Mr. President has been good to Delta is a matter of debate because the real issues are there. And so governance has to continue even while political leaders are strategizing ahead of 2027 and, putting up alignments there and realignments. Inflation is there. Of course, it rose in the month of March to 24%, a little over 24%. And security matters are there also in Nigeria's north central, which is trickling down gradually to the southwest. So those are the issues. Food insecurity is there as well. The latest World Bank report on poverty and food insecurity is quite, unsettling. Of course, we'll be delving into that in the coming days. So amid all the politicking, it's just important to reflect on the real issues of governance.
Yeah, because apparently, I agree with you. The real issues are there, but politicians cannot be stopped from making political moves. That's why they are politicians. So I personally don't have any quarrel with anybody moving anywhere. Because some of us have made up our mind that politics are right here where we practice. What we practice in Nigeria is not driven by any form of ideology. It's driven by interest. And I listened to Festus Keyamo, the Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, and he alluded to that fact, the lines are quite blurred. Maybe on paper, the PDP is different from APC in some form, but in reality, they are totally, in my view, the same. In fact, within APC, I've always constantly said they have ideologies that are not coming together in some part between Muhammadu Buhari, the former president, and Bola Tinubu, our current president. So even when I listened to Mr. Festus, some of the things he said yesterday, which I have my own argument over, but one of the things he said fundamental yesterday was the fact that, look, from me, what he alluded to was Oborowore, in his view, was doing good, and it would have been difficult to beat Oborowore, the governor of Delta State, if there was an election, given what Oborowore has done. That is by his own assessment. So you now begin to wonder, why did Oborowore actually defect? So it almost gives credence to the fact that it's because of Okowa, whatever it has with the EFCC as alleged, is maybe a soft landing to that effect. But it's not that. But looking at Oborowore strictly, it's difficult to know why he chose to defect. But you can see some of the lieutenants, some movement have been like all the senators are members of the APC. There's a movement in the state that actually moved to the APC and is saying every other person will move. I feel when politicians say we're moving to connect to the center, is one of the lamest reasons I have ever heard in politics. But Nigerian politicians constantly do that. There is no such thing. It doesn't affect your IGR. It doesn't affect your FAC allocation. Ministers will still be appointed from your state, even if it's not the governor that nominated that minister. The federal government will still do projects in your state if those projects are to be done, except the federal government is not serious and playing politics with projects. So this alignment with the center, California is run by Democrat, I think Florida by Republican, not because they lost an election, they want to now align. So I think it's a Nigerian concept from political class that we need to align with the center to get the dividend of democracy. It's lame. It doesn't make any sense. So, and there's no reason. You don't need to give a reason for defecting. You can just say, I don't want to do again with the PDP, and nobody will blame you. So all of this grasping at straw to make a reason doesn't hold water. Coyote.
Oh, yes, Jeffrey. While politicians will always play the game, Nigerians should focus on the results. Never get distracted. The results are what really matter to Nigerians. Yes, you may get into the game, discuss it, all the intrigues and all of that, but do not let that distract you from the results. And what do I mean by results? Well, it's out there. Infrastructure, the economy, security, and those basic things. That is what really matters to the average Nigerian. So if all of the, they've said that an average politician has at least 2 jerseys in that sense. There's one for the party, if it's APC, and there's one for the PDP, or there's one for PDP and APC. So you can always switch depending on where you're going per time. It's a joke that has been made, but that's what we're seeing is the reality. But what really matters, just as in a game of football or any other sports, is the result. And that's what Nigerians should pay attention to. And that's why we right here will ensure that we pay attention to the results, what we've called the dividends of democracy. Are we feeling it? Is it being paid consistently? Is there value for human life? Is the economy working for the average Nigerian? Can you sleep with your eyes closed? Those are the results that we're focusing on. And speaking of that, well, on today's program, we will be discussing Nigeria. That uptick in insecurity that we've witnessed in the past few weeks is really concerning, right? The Plateau killings, the Benue killings, we've seen in Sokoto, we've seen in Kwara, banditry, insurgency, kidnapping. I mean, these are the results that we're paying attention to. And we're also tying it to the economy as we begin to see shifts in loyalty ahead of the 2027 election. So, how far so far? We find out on the show.
Coyote, not very far as results are concerned. We could talk about the economy as well. But on today's edition of Diaspora Connect, we'll be speaking with an expert in the diaspora as he leads the charge on using artificial intelligence as a tool for personalized learning.
Okay, we'll also be talking about sustainable development and championing inclusion in that sense. So yes, that's a lady that will be bringing us up to speed as to what has to be done. SDGs, as far as inclusion is concerned, is the conversation we need to have. You know, there was a time this was a thing, SDG. We seem to have forgotten. This is how we plug into what is going on globally to assess how competitive or how not competitive we are in that sense. So we hope this conversation can help us in that direction.
Well, that's not all. We'll also turn the spotlight. On the ease of doing business segment this morning, particularly in the film and creative space. What are the opportunities and challenges in the Nigerian creative industry?
Yeah,
it's a conversation that you don't want to miss.
An industry that built from scratch. So, okay, those are some of the things we'll be talking about on the program today, right here on the Morning Brief. But we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be heading to the dailies to find out what the dailies are reporting as this morning, the 29th, right, of April 2025. Join us again.
So let's get started, shall we, with the front pages today. How are they reflecting all of the happenings across the country? Well, we're not doing this alone. We're joined by Sultan joins us virtually to walk through the front pages. Good morning, Mr. Fetaya. So let's start off with, well, the Vanguard newspaper. And the Vanguard newspaper just speaks to some of the points we raised earlier on. You see, there's a picture on the front page showing the vice president and the governor of Delta State with their hands up, right? The vice president holding his hand up, symbolic, obviously, speaking to his move to the APC. So this is a big story. Oborowori Okowa created political tsunami not seen before. And that statement is credited to President Bola Tinubu. But it doesn't end there, Mr. Fetayo. You see Governor Borowori himself saying that more governors will move. So all eyes are on the other PDP governors. Who is going to move next? Or will they change their plans, maybe in the name of shame, as some people have said it. You know what, I'm not moving again. Let me stay right here in the party. In fact, the APC national chairman said the same thing. There's another explainer here. It says, our decision for good of Deltans, that's coming from former Governor Ifeanyi Okowa. And you see El Rufai saying, defection of high-profile politicians, governors, widely exaggerated, has no electoral value. That's from former Governor of Kaduna State, who himself defected to the SDP. Speaking on those defections. It's a page 5 read in the Vanguard this morning. Mr. Fetayo, what do you have to say to this story and, of course, the angles that are coming in?
Well, thank you. Good morning from London. Anyway, defection, is something that we expected, especially among Nigerian politicians, because it's just all about personal interest, and coming from former senator and former governor of Delta State saying it's for the good of Delta. So are you saying if you don't defect and the Delta State or people, they will not enjoy the dividends of democracy? These are the issues. It's not just defecting now. What I'm looking up to is maybe a month to the primary. I'm sure there will still be some people who are aggrieved. And the real issue here is what happened to the structure of APC in Delta State. Because I'm sure before they are coming, few individuals, I don't want to mention their name, they have an ambition whether to become a governor or to become a senator, whatever it is. And just like you rightly pointed out in the studio the other time, that does it change the impact that the people are going to have? It's been noted in this part of our world that they will say that we want to align to the federal government so that we can get more funding or so that we can get more projects. I see that as a lame excuse because the government is for the people, by the people, and all of that. So if you are saying because you want to align, but they must definitely have one excuse or the other, or maybe because the former governor, the issue he had with the ESPC, so that he can have a soft landing and all of that. It's just all about personal interest. It's not just all about the people alone. It's just all about personal interest. And just like you remember as well, politics or election here is a game of number. I don't know what the Mr. President said to the governor and the former governor to canvass that let the South, let them retain presidency, and we need you on our side. And of course, PDP, as we know, Delta State, as we know, has been a PDP state, but moving to another party, like they said, the only thing that is constant is change. We just hope that it's going to bring a good change to the people of Delta State.
Okay, well said, Mr. Fetayo, on this particular issue. As we said, well, no quarrels with politicians for making political moves. However, all we are saying is that don't grasp at straw in trying to make your points. And I totally agree with you on that particular one. Perhaps maybe if you had said what is playing out in the PDP, because we've seen a situation where internal wrangling within political parties at the subnational level affected outcomes. For instance, Zamfara State, APC won an election, and then because of the internal wrangling, it was given to the PDP because of that. Yes. Remember what happened in River State as well? I think in 2019, the internal wrangling within the APC, that's how they could not fill the candidate. They now used an SPV to drive. So perhaps it's where they are coming from. That can make a political sense. But every other thing, well, you and I know is as good as grasping at straw. But with the greatest sense of respect, everybody has a right to make political move. Let's go to the Guardian newspaper. Institutional fees. And this is quite interesting. Nigerians should pay attention to this. This is interesting. 51 varsities, others embroiled in illegal deductions from students' loans. 51 varsities, others embroiled in illegal deductions from students' loan. Extra charges institutions make on each NEL fund applicant. This is quite interesting. This is a loan that is interest-free, that is repayable when the people start working after 2 years, if they get a job and all of that? Because I read the piece of legislation, it's about 10 pages that brought this loan together. Mr. Fetai, when you see this, what's your response?
It beats my imagination that every platform that we have in this country is just for people or the head of that particular policy to obtain, or whether directly or indirectly from the people that the money or the loan are meant for. When they are complaining of high rise in school fees, high rise in whatever it is that is going on, and here is a platform that felt that, oh, finally, I think the government, they are doing the right thing, and somebody is sitting down elsewhere to make sure to defeat the purpose or obtain. Is so alarming. And I think EFCC should swing to action. You know, sometimes when you continue to do something and expect different results, I think we have not started. If there are deterrents, if they arrest 1 or 2 people, they made them to feel the full throttle of the law, and it will be a lesson or it will be a deterrent to others who want to maybe such policy. What are we going to do for our people to have an impact and say, yes, when I went to school, I didn't have money to pay my fee. The federal government or the state government did A, B, C, D to give me a soft landing. You know, they should know all this is all about is for people. And I don't know when they will sit down and say, whatever it is we are doing, how can we impact our people? How can we impact the students? And you see, not just only the institution alone, the lecturer, they have their own. That will be a discussion for another day, that if you don't buy these handout, 2 marks or 5 marks, you know, will be deducted from your mark. I think when they are putting such a thing down, next time, the EFCC should be invited. The agency should investigate. Whatever it is they have deducted should be refunded back, or they should make them also to pay a fine. Because you can't, government will say, oh, this one, they got it right, and somebody is trying to sabotage it. It's not good. It's not nice for us.
Well, Mr. Fetai, I couldn't help but ponder on your initial commentary on the lead story on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper as far as Monday's political tsunami is concerned, particularly with regards to your question about what happens to the APC structure in Delta State, who is now the leader of the party in Delta State because of, you know, previous ambitions of former Deputy Senate President Uvi Omoagege. What happens even to the PDP structure now in Delta State? Is the house, the PDP house now a hollow one? Or as Jeffrey would say, the difference between the PDP and the APC now, it looks more like, you know, between 6 and half a dozen. But whether perhaps you'll be responding to that as you also look at the front page of Blueprint newspaper. It's the same story that is leading. But take a look at the riders. There are just 2 of them. Deltans want to get connected to Abuja, show Tinubu love. The second one is the one that catches my attention. Governor 2 links defection to APC-led government's performance. That particular second one, Mr. Fetayo, and of course the structure of both parties in Delta State. I'd like you to, you know, reflect on those 2 issues.
What is performance? I have not seen any performance in this government that the defection is led to APC performance. How has it bettered the lot or the life of people in Delta State? So it's just only personal ambitions, and if they know that, like somebody said, although I can verify that, you know, maybe the governor does not want to be disturbed. In 2027, he wants to have a soft landing, and of course, his benefactor or the former governor, that's Senator Kowa, with the case with EFCC. So, of course, they'll just be rubbing it on our face. Regardless, whatever, even we've seen it, just like Rupai, they definitely make an excuse. I don't have any problem associating. There's freedom of association. If you want to go, but making and lame excuse and all of that, how has it affected the life of people? Will he make sure that the security situation in Delta State will be tackled? The issue of herdsmen and farmers and all of that. So those are the issues that we are talking about, not just because you want your personal ambition and all of that. You make a deal with the government at the top, and so that you can have a soft landing. Whatever it is. is left for them. We just want that. We just hope that it will affect or it will make a positive impact in the life of people in Delta State.
All right, Mr. Ifetayo, something tells me that we're not quite done with this particular subject matter. We may be back here in the coming days. But we must thank you very much for your analysis and always for being on this particular segment of the program. Mr. Ifetayo Adeni is a media analyst. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here.
Of course, we'll be back after this break to bring you more, this time about what you're saying about the big story. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
Well, your comments to the big stories particularly, and one that has been a while in the making, got people talking, and that's the news that the FCT High Court has found late Osinachi's husband guilty of culpable homicide and has sentenced him to death by hanging. And for a lot of people, that was a closure they were looking forward to, really, after the sad death of the gospel singer Osinachi. And this, again, has been long drawn since 2022, 8th of April 2022. She was a popular Nigerian gospel musician, and she achieved popularity through that song, Ekweme. But now the court has given a ruling on the husband, sentencing him to death by hanging. And you see the first user, Lily Ally, saying that it took 3 years to get justice done. And well, that's what they say about the wheel of justice. Yes, it grinds slowly, but the hope and the projection, it will surely grind. So that's the first user. It took 3 years to get this closure. Guys.
I think let's read from Dave. Dave says, in Nigeria, one thing is to decree death penalty. Another is to sign and execute it. No governor likes signing that stuff. That's coming from the handle Dave. Caller.
Yeah, well, why does justice not feel any better? That's my question this morning. But this one is from Raymond, who says, death by hanging for culpable homicide. It's, well, this man might stay in prison for life, or they wait till when them go hang him. Well, I was trying to say he may be in incarceration for a long time waiting for that verdict to be carried out, and it may not come. That's Raymond this morning.
Okay, let's move on to other videos as well. Some things we've been seeing online. Maybe we'll get to the one that has to do with Two-Face Sidibe's former wife. We can say that. I think I understand their divorce. So this was at the Headies where separated, I should say. This was at the Headies where she referred to herself as Annie. I think she wanted to say Dibia, and then she
wanted to say Macaulay.
No, she wanted to say Dibia, and then she now said Macaulay.
No, she wanted to say Macaulay, and then she made a mistake and said Dibia. Let's
okay.
Listen to it.
Oh, okay. She wanted to say Macaulay. Yeah, you're correct, sir.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Farouk Oreagba, and I have the pleasure of presenting with a stunningly beautiful, gorgeous...
Keep up, Annie Macaulay.
Right, now we've got...
So there you go. It was well, a charming night actually for both of them, the behind the scenes and all. For a lot of people, it was good to see Annie happy, looking well. I think that was a major takeaway. And some said she did it deliberately, you know. It's showbiz, guys. Get used to these things. But the bigger picture is to see her doing well. I think at the end of the day, Nigerians wish both of them the very best. But let's talk about this video that has been making rounds, showing members of the NYSC queuing up for food. I think this is usually what you see if you've ever been to the camp. And this is a common place, this is a common sight, having to queue for food. But this queue is quite long. There you go, very long queue. So there's a debate. Is this part of the service? Is this part of the training, in quote, or this can be better, really. It just has it has a funny feel seeing graduates queuing that long for what some described as pap and akara, which is good meal, I should say. But we should find ways to make this process better. We don't have to keep them standing on the queue for this long. Is that part of the training, really? Take a look at what Olubayo Akindele has to say. Saying social media is doing more harm than good. This has always been the system. We queue in an orderly manner to get food in camp. Everything should not be cruise. And then you see Osage, you're saying, what's the outrage about this for? It's a normal thing in all NYSC camps. My only concern is that they should have broken the lines into like 5 to save time. So I think that's the big picture. How can we make this better? Bukola?
Well, it's an all too familiar scene. I wonder if there's any copper that didn't queue for food while they were serving, particularly during the orientation camp. So everyone who has served has had cause, to queue, either to, begin your registration as you enter camp, or to queue to get your meal. So this is not an unfamiliar scene. But let's see what some of, Nigerians are saying. We've taken that. Okay, Jeffrey.
Okay, I think let's move from there to, we're talking about queue. A queue is a normal thing in Nigeria. You queue for jam, you queue for everything, you queue literally everywhere. Maybe it's a ritual, a rite of passage in that sense, I wouldn't know. But let's talk about some good news that came to a police officer who, I understand, he got promoted to a DSP, Deputy Superintendent of Police in Plateau State, and his excitement. Let's just watch this. So I'm not sure exactly what it is, but what I mean is he's being promoted. It sounds like First is a great guy. It feels like for that level of celebration for him before he promoted, and that level of celebration comes across, I think it feels like a great guy. As well as, I don't know whether those are inmates or people in custody of the police who are also celebrating him. Well,
it looks more like those would be the staff of the police station where that event occurred. Perhaps it's testament to, the work of this newly promoted officer, and for them it's a thing of joy to have someone in a position of authority. I'm hoping that is what the video is telling us.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll take a quick break now. When we come back, we'll get to the very first conversation for the day. It's a potpourri of everything that has to do with security and the economy. We're having security in Benue, we're having security in Plateau, parts of the north. We also have the abductions that are happening in Oron, Calabar, Waterway that we spoke about the other day. Those people are still in custody of those kidnappers. So everywhere you turn, there is one level of insecurity or the other across the country. But it can get better if we do the right things. That's why we want to talk about it today on the program. Join us again.
Let's get right into the big discussion of the day. And as you can see, we're joined by former Minister of Youth and Sports Development, a lawyer, Mr. Solomon Dalong, joins us virtually this morning. You're welcome to the show, Mr. Dalong. You were recently seen in that video, and I want us to just start from there. In that video with Omoyele Sowore and Deji Adeyanju put out a tweet saying that yesterday a coalition of patriots condemned the killings in Plateau. But, the coalition got a lot of people's attention because they know that the PDP candidate for the 2023 presidential election, Mr. Atiku Abubakar, is trying to build a coalition with saying Mr. El Rufai in the SDP, your party. So is this the same coalition? Is this a different coalition? Is Mr. Sowore also a part of that coalition, or this is a different arrangement entirely? So we are clear on behalf of Nigerians.
Well, good morning, Nigerians. I think let me put it into proper perspectives. The coalition is a coalition of patriots who are interested in trying to mobilize Nigerians to be more interested in the affairs of the country, to promote our core values, unity, justice, and togetherness. So it's not a political coalition. We all have our different political affiliations, and we may have common political ideology. So that's just basically it.
Right, and you remain in the SDP. Am I correct?
I'm a card-carrying member of the Social Democratic Party.
All right, Mr. Dalong, let's get into the issues. There's been a lot of talk around the defection of the Delta State governor, his predecessor to the APC, a party you left some years ago, a party which you served under, of course, but you left for various reasons. But we see people joining the APC now, and you've described this government as, you know, very strong cabal government, government of kakistocracy. I mean, you've used, you know, some of those terms to describe this government and the APC and your party. So what do you make first of this movement? Because this is something you left, so people are moving to it saying, well, this is the best thing, almost in sliced bread, Mr. Dalong.
The wave of defections or gale of defections of the political elites who are positioning themselves either for survival or protection or evasion of prosecution cannot be taken seriously by students of the Nigerian politics, because the first question you may ask, if you understand politics very well, is that in defection, it is the people who brought you into power that will motivate you to defect. And they will give you genuine reasons. Oh, we are disappointed in this political party. Oh, we are not satisfied by the failure of either internal democracy, which is basically what usually instigates some of these defections. Oh, we are not satisfied with this leadership. But what we see happening is an array of a generation of politicians who succeeded themselves or handed over batons to each other, some with outstanding corruption cases, having corruption hanging on their necks like the sword of Damocles. And then they line up and said, oh, we have migrated to the ruling party. We are guided very well by the statement of the former governor of Edo State, Senator Shomale, who said, if you defect into the APC, your sins are forgiven. Meaning that if you are a saint, a political saint, you have no business to defect to the APC. But if you have skeletons in your cupboards, you will defect. So these defections is too early for us to assess, but I do know that the people who elected these defectors are intact. Don't forget that they contested primaries with more popular people in the party. They only won because of the weight of the size of their pockets. So if they are leaving the party now, they can compel those popular and credible politicians left behind to live with them. So they will reorganize the people popularly now and to face them. So we are just having a charade that is referred to defections to the ruling party. But then if you have skeletons in your cupboard, you can join or migrate immediately.
Well, Mr. Dalong, This coalition of patriots, just before we get into the security matters, I'd like you to, talk to us a bit more about the objective. But in context, I wonder why Nigerians should take you seriously, particularly because you admitted to the media just last year that when you presented alongside the All Progressives Congress, former President Muhammadu Buhari to Nigerians as a candidate, that you lied to Nigerians, and indeed what you wanted, was to use his charisma, and indeed the APC did not deliver on its promises. So whatever this coalition is presenting to Nigerians now, why should we trust you? Why should Nigerians trust you?
Well, this coalition, basically, like I said, has no relationship with politics. We are basically interested in galvanizing Nigerians to try to save and protect this country, because we understood that we either come together collectively and fight, or we also die collectively as fools. This is just basically what is the motivating drive there. If you look at the state of insecurity, its dynamics, and how it's been spreading across the country. So we needed Nigerians to know that, look, the state with its apparatus seems to be interested more in protecting themselves and not the people. And the people cannot just fold their arms and surrender to a few group of criminals carrying arms, with government conveniently renaming them with one nomenclature to the other. So that is basically it. For Nigerians to trust me, it's basically left for Nigerians. Nigerians have been living here. And so they know me very well. Whether of the 60 years I have lived, the 4 years of participation in Buhari's government outweighs the remaining 56 years, is left for Nigerians to assess. But that will not preclude me from raising alarm when it is clear that eminently my country is facing great challenge, and I should draw the attention of Nigerians. So the issue of integrity is not personal. It is left for the people to decide. Trust is an asset. If they believe that I'm worthy of trusting it and doing it, they will. But then we are all humans. Otherwise, nobody would have made it. It is clear in all religions. If you know you are wrong, you admit and apologize, and I've done that as a human being. I'm not a perfect being, neither am I Angel Gabriel.
Mr. Dalong, so let's get to the nitty-gritty of some of the issues that are facing the country. I was listening to the Minister of Aviation yesterday, and he was talking about the fact that under this administration, more monies have been given to the subnationals, and I agree with him, that's a fact. And that is simple, and there's a cost to that as well. So the federal government has stopped paying subsidy for PMS, has stopped subsidizing FX, has also stopped partly subsidizing electricity. So all of that should have been channeled either directly or indirectly to that cause is now funneled into the federation account, which is shared among the subnationals and the federal government and the state government, or the federation in that sense. So there's generally more money, and some governors are even saying now that they've not borrowed since they came into office. And they've also talked about the fact that our debt to revenue ratio usually was about 90-something%, about 96, 98. Now it's about 68. So that 30%, that chunk of that, the management of that fund is now plowed back into the economy to build some of the things they are building. But the argument is, for those who understand economics will know that more money doesn't mean development in that sense.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about some things that are low-hanging fruits, that no matter the projection that this government has in terms of their policy direction, if it's not sorted, all of the effort of the president is going to go to waste, and that's a fact. It's just a matter of time you get to see. Number one, and I want to take them in steps, I want you to speak about fighting corruption, because if somebody is allegedly corrupt and he sees more money, he steals. If you give him more money, he will steal more money. So let's talk about the effort at fighting corruption from where you sit under this administration. Are you seeing that effort to really fight corruption? The president has said that his own effort at fighting corruption maybe is to increase wages of workers and all of that. Well, that is his own argument. But talk about the effort at fighting corruption, because there's corruption everywhere. The federal, the state, security, civil service is everywhere, and it's eating deep into our fabric.
The best method of fighting corruption is exemplary leadership. If the leader, by his conduct, represents what he says, people will believe him, and everybody in the society will queue up and begin to behave like the leader. So this government, to be very honest and modest with words, their effort is just enabling corruption. Because I say this with references to the conduct, behavior, and attitude of those who hold positions in government. There was a time the Senate president was announcing a recess in the Senate, and he told them, "I'm going to send some thing into your account." And when he realized that the mic was on, he changed and said, "Oh, I'm going to send you emails." I mean, 250 million Nigerians, very intelligent, hardworking, brilliant people, good people, sweet souls. You will just take us to be a community of buffoons. So, to me, I don't see much effort. I only see more efforts in enabling corruption. And if you look at the abuse of procurement processes by this administration, we are awarding a contract of 1.7 or thereabout trillion without proper procurement procedures from the comfort of your bedroom and to a friend with a family member who is a director in the company. This is not even different from what has happened under President Muhammadu Buhari, where the Accountant General, who is supposed to be the custodian of the funds of the peoples of Nigeria, in one transaction, made away with 109 billion. Until today, the man has been rewarded with the traditional title. So I don't see any effort as such, because the lifestyle of people in government who are calling Nigerians to sacrifice does not at all depict sacrifice. They live large, they live lavishly, while Nigerians languish in hunger and poverty. So corruption has won the battle. Corruption has triumphed. And I'm afraid even we discussing corruption now, corruption may visit us immediately. So it takes some courage and risks for you to talk about it. In future, I foresee a situation where for you to be appointed, I mean, your CV must contain corruption capacity before you will be appointed if nothing is done.
Let's talk about the security challenge now. And again, I'd like you to, reflect on matters arising within the context of what is happening, particularly with response to this challenge. First of all, on the one hand, politicians are not agreed on the identity of those who are perpetrating, these crimes in Nigeria's North Central, your state, home state Plateau, and Benue State. We've heard, a member of the cabinet in Benue State telling us here that, these people are herders, and he identified them with specificity. But, the governor spoke later on our own program, our sister political program, saying that these people are foreign, are of foreign extraction. What's your own theory about the identities of the people, the criminal elements who are, causing havoc in these states in Nigeria? And what would be your assessment of the governor's explanation? Have they been forthright in bringing the federal government to account with regards to responding, with manpower and equipment to tackle these challenges, those two issues?
If we want to be honest with the identity of, the new wave of criminality, which is terrorism, that has existential potentials and genocidal intentions, we'll have to go back and take a great study at the popular speech of Baraje, the former National Secretary of APC, who confessed on his 70th birthday that in the build-up to 2015, the APC imported mercenaries into Nigeria to facilitate its victory. Now, that was the National Secretary of the party. He had more knowledge about what happened more than every other person. Even myself, as a founding member of the party, I didn't know that much until that public outburst. So if you pick his statement and then you align it, you now adopt a deeper critical analysis of the statement of Governor Alia and some of the statements of people from the platform, what I have also said as a person, you will form consensus along the line, or there will be a conference of ideas that basically those who are attacking our people are foreign mercenaries. They may have identities, from what we hear from our local people, looking like some indigenous communities in Nigeria, especially the Fulanis, but they speak, the languages they speak are too exotic to the Nigerian ethnic phyla. So basically, we are dealing with a more complex terrorism that, if you look at their pattern of attacks, is so advanced and is intended to wipe completely the human community of their ancestral lands and completely take over. And the governor of Plateau said, has given us a hint to it when he said there are over 64 communities currently under their control. So I think I agree more with the governor, and I don't want to join the complicity of trying to reduce it to communal or farmer-herder clashes. Those elements may exist, but they are microscopic. Then back to the roles of the chief executives of the subnational governments. Disappointingly too, they have not lived up to their expectations. Majority of them spend their time in Abuja. They only go back to their states when there is any problem. So they are more or less like cosmopolitan chief executive living in Abuja and then ruling by proxy. And this is the reason why insecurity has been escalating. So when you take what was the first question, the monies from the proceeds of the fuel subsidy flowing to the subnational governments, and then without any meaningful impact, but with poverty and hunger, insecurity rising astronomically, you will come to a conclusion that the subnational government cannot be exonerated from the failure, which is now the chorus on the mouths of most Nigerians.
Mr. Dalong.
There are low-hanging fruits that the subnational governments can harvest to try to augment the situation. Fighting poverty must not be an issue of the federal government. The states should have dealt with the issue of poverty. The states would have run their economies in a manner that will put food and bring succor to their people. So
Mr. Dalong, because of time, if I may butt in, my apologies. So let's stay with that issue of security for a bit, which you have talked about. Everybody has to take responsibility, including the subnationals. But as my colleague Bukola has said about even identifying who is responsible, is a political conversation in that sense. On one hand, we've had a conversation within the same government of Benue. One is saying is suspected headers of Fulani ethnic nationalities, the criminal elements of that header group. The governor is saying, no, they are foreigners, maybe from somewhere else. So there's a lot of inconsistency and contradiction wherever you look. There are people that have said that there is even, it's a bit more complicated than we think. But there's something that seems to be the common thread here, what the intention is of these people. So from where you sit and what you know, what is really the intention? Some are saying it's annihilation, some are saying it's ethnic cleansing, some are saying it's land grabbing, all kinds of potpourri. But you are from that area. What exactly are these people looking for?
Reviewing their activities, pattern of attack, identity, and aligning it with experiences of other places, I have come to the conclusion that these criminals are mercenaries brought to grab land, so they will exterminate the ancestral communities. These lands are taken, and for what purpose will the land be taken? The land will be taken for economic activities. If you look at just Plateau of recent, there is a rising profile of artisanal mining by local people. So the rich mineral deposits in those areas, especially the Bokos axis, where you have rich forest reserve, the land itself is also rich in minerals. Of course, these people are just enablers of a larger conspiracy to eliminate the people, take over their lands, and then mining activities will continue like what is obtainable in Zamfara now. So for me, that basically appears to be. And why has little attention not given to this? Because of the complicity of the political elites. Because if you look at their explanation now, I mean, within the same government, they are double speaking about the identities of these criminals, when we know as a fact from available evidence that they are mercenaries and they are not indigenous Fulani, because the pattern of their attack, which is genocidal, they wipe everything on the face of the earth, everything living.
So, Mr. Dalong, if
take over the place.
If that is the case, and as you have said, that you cannot absolve the governors of, incapacity to tackle this, what then is the option left to the, locals, the indigents in these areas, in terms of defending themselves? And for this, the executives at the subnationals, is it as a result of lethargy or, political expediency that they are unable to be forthright with the federal government about what the real needs of security are in their domain? Because if the police only go to the areas where these crimes have been committed, to carry the dead bodies, then there is a very strong issue about deterrence.
What's it about?
Well, you see, the subnational governments have already been intimidated by the federal government. So the governors are behaving like school children before the headmaster, because they are too uncertain about what they should do. Their tenure is even not guaranteed. So they have to now rely solely on pleasing the government at the center, so that they are not visited with either state of emergency or the crisis will fester and they lose their relevance. So that is understandable. But the only option now open for the people which I've aligned myself with, is the option suggested by the DG of DSS. He called it the first line of action, but I christen it as the homegrown solution. These communities were not conquered communities, and before the advent of colonialism, they fought wars, defended themselves. So there are cultural, traditional mechanisms left behind by our ancestors to defend that land. Therefore, we need to come together and face these people headlong. Secondly, the experiment of the homegrown solution has succeeded even in Plateau. The Taro people between 2001 and 2005 came under barrage of attacks from mercenaries. What saved them was the courage of coming together on hearing alarm that they are coming, they are coming. The community moves out in number, and there is strength in number, and this will intimidate them, and they will take to their heels, and advantage is taken. It has also been practiced in Azare, where Boko Haram attacked Azare, and the people came out in number. So I'm of the very strong contention that the homegrown solution of the people coming together and defending themselves is the best option.
Mr. Solomon Dalong is a lawyer and former Minister of Youth and Sports Development, joining us virtually. Thank you, sir, for coming on the program and for your views as well on the issues raised on the program. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and you're welcome.
Welcome back. Let's talk about trafficking, human trafficking in Nigeria, and how that has kind of given us quite some image that is not honorable in that sense. So I brought in somebody who understands how this works and what is going on in that space, and bringing us up to speed with the recent reception of the federal government of about 231 trafficked youths from Ghana. Let's talk to Tessie Osakwe. She is the chairman, Anti-Human Trafficking Committee, MBA Ikorodu branch, also the project director, Lagos Legal Hub. Thank you, ma'am, for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.
One of the first questions I like to ask when we talk about issues of human trafficking is to help our audience understand the scale of what we're dealing with. That can create a bit of context so we understand the seriousness or otherwise of exactly what this is really all about. Maybe you can start from there.
Thank you. Human trafficking generally is when we are talking about trade in human or trade of human, ranging from sexual exploitation to forced labor and all forms of exploitation. That is what it is basically, but really it's a crime that is rated the third highest crime in the world, aside drugs. So it's really not a small business, because this is it's really not a small issue, because this is a business that has over $150 billion profit annually. So it has gotten so deep into the system that it's formed a cartel, and then trying to pin down this, the kingpins in this crime is serious business for everyone, and then people should really look in that direction for help.
All right, without trying to be in a hurry to find out, one of the things I would like us to achieve is to help the vulnerable persons. For instance, you and I, it will be difficult to traffic us. The reason is quite simple. We're informed, we're educated, exactly. Perhaps we have street smart. There are a couple of things that are working for us. Not everybody has that opportunity to be able to know what to do, especially when life has put them at a disadvantaged position given the state of the economy. So maybe you walk us, say for instance, sex trafficking. That's for an example. How are they lured, and why is the success rate high?
Really, the ingredients for, or what you can term as human trafficking, if you have the basic ingredients that refer to the crime, is one, the act, the means, and the purpose. And what are the acts? have you recruited? Have you transported? Have you received? Have you harbored? Have you transferred a person? And what are the means? Coercion, fraud, deception. And for what purpose? For the purpose of exploitation, for the purpose of organ harvesting, what's it called? Sexual exploitation, child labor, and all of that. So if you see all these ingredients put together in a particular act, we can successfully say that the person has been trafficked. And one of the reasons why it is so easy to traffic people is just like as you've mentioned. One, lack of education. It depends. For some in the north, we know that people are not so educated in that region, and the most vulnerable population are women and children. So, lack of education is one. Unemployment and poverty could also push people or make these traffickers prey on the vulnerable innocents.
So at the end of the day, there may never be a time when we're not going to have poor people amongst us. There will never be a time past when we're not going to have vulnerable people in that sense amongst us. So the level of critical mass of these people is a different kettle of fish altogether. So let's switch it to what policies of government are in place, especially because there's a failure most of the time with the Nigerian state when it comes to administration of justice. Rule of law in that sense, to hold the persons who are perpetrators. If this industry is that large, I don't know what the scale is for Nigeria. You've talked about the global one, which is 150 billion, perhaps is more. I don't know what the size is in Nigeria, but I'm sure a lot of people have become wealthy and rich carrying out this illicit enterprise. What are you seeing as a lawyer in terms of prosecution, apprehension and prosecution of those who are perpetrating this? Are we doing enough?
I would say that the government is trying, and with the help of agencies like NAPTIP, that is the focal agency for prosecution. My organization, as a group, because I belong to an organizational-based group where we have all other law enforcement agency coming together to fight this crime. Going by way of scale, we can say that the government is trying, but we would say, we can safely also say that we are not doing enough. If we go by the TPIA Act, which NAPTIP is using and which is the international standard for, we can say that there are more prosecution than conviction in the trafficking business. And that's because it's not easy. It's a chain, it's a cabal, it's huge. It's not easy to really pin down these traffickers, so to speak. So from whistleblowing to investigation to arrest to prosecution and conviction is a process. It's a huge process.
Which is why I'm going to ask if, the work of prosecution and the efficacy of the judicial justice system will have to go beyond the shores of the country to explore collaborations with the justice system of other countries within the African continent. For instance, in Libya, where we find that these trafficking is going on a rather large scale, where we see, a lot of Nigerians and indeed other Africans from other African countries who are, detained and, messages are sent to their family members to send money in order to have them released and all of that. So, because more often than not, they are called a syndicate. So would the justice system be more, and in fact, is the committee exploring this option?
Actually, what we are looking at is the internal space, what we have in the internal space. The hub, the Lagos Legal Hub, is a collaboration of so many key players. from the Human Rights Commission to Duty Solicitor Network to all the human rights committees, or basically Ikeja and Ikorodu MBA human rights committees, to FIDA, to ALA, to NAPTIP. We have a huge collaborators working together to first look inwards what we have and how we can rescue and reintegrate these people, from within. Now we are aware of the 231 returnees from Ghana, and it's like a weekly thing or a monthly thing. In fact, I can say weekly thing because the Ministry of Special, if you go down to the Ministry of Special Duties and Management, you would see firsthand how returnees are returned from Libya. They've gone through a lot, try to reintegrate them back. So it's a collaboration with the hub too, to go and also try to tell them their rights, try to bring them back home, they're back home already, and then how to settle back home. Now you are back, so what's next? So in the international space, yes, I can say that Mrs. Abike Dabira Iriwa is doing all she can. Nigerians within Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, she's really trying in that space. So I think I would leave that space to her and the commission at the international scene. But coming down to Nigeria, what we are trying to do at the hub and with the Committee on Human Rights in some of these Nigerian Bar Association human rights committees are how to reintegrate them back to the society. And of course, awareness has to be on top gear.
And as you do the work of reintegration, isn't it simplistic to say that some of these people keep falling into the net of the traffickers due to lack of education, ignorance? Because time and again, arrests are made, and there is that advocacy on television that people should not fall prey to traffickers. Yet, it seems to be a vicious cycle. So what do you attribute to the continuing willingness of these people to take up, verbose job offers that have a lot of potholes, dangers ahead for them?
I think it borders on awareness, really. It borders on awareness. Has the awareness gone down to the roots, to the villages, in dialects, in different languages? Because we're in a diverse, multifaceted kind of situation here where within even a community you have 3-4 other community existing. Is this awareness really getting that? What we do at the hub, for instance, we go to schools, we take our campaign and awareness on human trafficking down to schools, secondary schools. We meet them at the assembly ground or in their school halls. We need to we go to churches, we go to market areas to sensitize the community. So we cannot overemphasize the role of campaigns and awareness, outreaches. It's not enough. We just have to keep going because people will keep falling prey of this. The states where you have larger vulnerable population are, for instance, Delta, Edo, Lagos, Kano, Kaduna, Abia, and these are for obvious reasons. Some of them are border states, and for a state like Abia, you have more of child labor or forced labor, because this is a crime that is happening at our faces, and we don't tend to identify it even as literates. As literate as you can be, could be happening at your face and you're not seeing it. We have underage nannies. We have underage sales girls and sales reps here and there. And the question is, if you look deep, how did we come to this point? You go to eateries, you find a family of 4, and then there's this young girl that is not so well dressed as every other person. She's made to sit at another table, not given what everybody's eating. And you look at the picture of this family, and you think it's a perfect family. You look at them with so much beauty, and then there's this other person at the side. So if you look at the age of these children, most of them from the east and some from the south, you know, because we have cases of where you want to apply for nannies, you go through agents, and nobody cares to know how this child or person got to Lagos. You also go to transportation, the transportation industries. They traffic people every day.
Okay.
You find somebody putting a child on a vehicle and telling the driver, somebody will pick her up at Lagos, somebody will pick her up at Ojota, somebody will pick her up at some park. These things are happening at our faces.
So that means we need OCs, officers in charge of those areas to get to work.
NAPTIP is even doing a lot because they've gone ahead to train drivers.
Okay.
They've gone to all these transportation companies, and of course NAPTIP is a part of the legal hub too. Okay. So they've gone ahead to train most of these people to be able to identify
trafficking.
Absolutely. It's an ongoing conversation, and it's just sad to see that somebody's already vulnerable and then now trafficked, so it's a double jeopardy. But we thank you for the work you do, and also thank NAPTIP for the efforts being put, and they can do better so that we'll reduce that number and spoil business for the perpetrators. Tessius Akwe is the chairman, Anti-Human Trafficking Committee of the NBA Ikorodu branch, also project director at the Lagos Legal Hub. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.
All right, I'll take a quick break now. When we come back, we will bring you yet another conversation. This time, we're talking about artificial intelligence. Join us again in just a moment. We'll be right back.
Artificial intelligence in a moment, don't worry. But let's talk about inclusion. And it's a conversation that we need to keep on the front burner, lest we forget. We've seen a series of data saying about 15% of Nigeria's population, that's approximately 25 million people, have one disability or the other on that spectrum. So that is a huge part of our population, right? And this morning, as you can see, we're joined by a disability right and inclusion advocate, founder We Are Special Foundation, Shamsia Umar. She's right here with us in our Abuja studio. Shamsia, good morning.
Good morning.
And it's good to have you on the show.
Same here. Thank you.
I want to start with your story, because I know you have a remarkable story. You had an accident at a very young age,
yes,
if I'm correct. And, you know, there's a tendency for people to see disability and inclusion as a conversation they should be having. You know, it's just something far away. Okay, just do your thing, I'll do my thing. But they forget that we're all interconnected. It's closer to you than you can ever imagine, and it may be you any moment. So tell us about your story. You had an accident at 12, am I correct?
Yes.
What exactly happened?
So it was on a Christmas day back then in 2009, and my mom was fasting, my late mom, and she gave me just 15 naira, surprisingly, to get her fresh oranges. So apparently those two boys, aged 16 and 18, stole their father's car when he was sleeping, and they locked him inside. So upon hearing the sound of his car, he woke up and totally thought they stole his car, and he raised an alarm. So they were around our area, and we had a police station close by. So when they saw the plate number, because the alarm has been raised, so they started chasing them. So, you know, all these thief, and also they were trying to run away. And apparently, I think they were not too good with the driving because they were so young, imagine 16 and 18. And I was just by the side of the road. It was a one-way road. I wasn't on their way. So at the process, they just came, hit me. And he was trying to still run away because it wouldn't be that serious. But I was already under the car. So he kept going back and forth on my right leg.
Oh dear.
Yeah, so I remember my leg being packed on the carton in pieces on that day. It was hell. And so that's how I acquired my disability rights. And it's been 16 years now. 16 years has been long with a lot of experience. I initially didn't like being called a person with disability, not until lately that I owned it. And even, I know a lot of people still say, I don't see you as a person with disability, but I owned it now. I know I'm a person with disability. Through my hospital days, it was smooth because I had my mom. Mothers are gracious. And hospital schooled, I always say that, and I say if there's anyone like that, yeah, I hospital schooled, because I remember getting notes, curriculums from my classmates, and I had people, the nurses were really helpful. They were helping me through my education because I love school. I love school. I still do, actually. So it didn't really hit me until when I got back to school, right? And it was a whole new world.
I mean, this was you. You had your 2 legs, you were running before the incident, and then that happened. You had to go to school now.
School now. So that was like after a few years being in the hospital.
How long were you in the hospital
for? I had to really go back to school.
How long were you in the hospital for? Pardon me.
The first stay was like 2 years, because I remember laying on my back without even sitting for more than 6 months. Yeah. And there was a lot of surgeries. I still count 53 surgeries to this. Yeah. If I had the last one in 2023, I think I'll be counting 54, because there was a time I was always going to theater.
Wow.
After a week, 2 weeks, there's always something wrong, need to be fixed, need to avoid this, that, and it was just a lot for me. And I went back to school. Then I saw people staring at me, like in a different way. They were staring. It was so uncomfortable. I think I still feel that discomfort because people do stare. Right. And I don't think they understand the effect of you staring at someone in a way, in an awkward way. So the stares was really discomforting, and that was when it really hit me. Like, really, Shamsia, something is wrong.
I imagine you were 14 then, or thereabouts.
Yeah, 14, yes. It should be.
I mean, just because of 2 young men, maybe I'll get to what exactly happened, if there was, what happened to these young men, 16 and 18 after the incident. Do you have an idea?
Okay, so one of them died at the spot. There's this thing we have in Nigeria called jungle justice. So they're really trying to lift me from under the car, because at first people just come peep and they will run away. I didn't realize that the accent was really bad. So I tried pulling myself until I met someone who used to normally come to my house, and when he saw me, he didn't even hesitate. He said, please help me, let's leave this car and carry Shamsia out. And when they were trying to do that, obviously, you know, there would be a lot of hitting of the car, trying to move it. And one of the boys said, stop hitting my father's car. That was the last thing I heard, and everybody just turned on him. They beat him up till he died. I think they brought him to the same hospital that I was. Then it was Asokoro Hospital. They brought his corpse there. The other one, I have no idea. But when we were still at the hospital, we got a call. One day my mom got a call that his parents said they were going to sue us because of me, their child died. I don't know them. I don't know him, the guy who hit me. I don't know his brother. They never came to us, nothing. So I have no idea where they are at the moment, but I just knew that one of them passed away that day.
It's a really emotional story. Oh, wow. But let's try to move away from that. Let's try to shake that up, because you're now doing something remarkable with all of that story, that experience, who you are right now with your foundation. So speak to us about how you've been able to take all of that negativity, all of that pain, the hurt, which I imagine you still go through right now, and you're using that to fix life for other people living, or people with disability. So it's not people living with disability, it's people with disability. So speak to us about that.
Okay, so I started my foundation almost towards my graduation days and my final year. And it has been something I always wanted, but one story that always stood out for me is I got an inspiration from someone else, and he was my classmate. I still wish I would be able to reach out to him and let him know how watching him has really made an impact in my life, right? He was visually impaired and he was physically challenged. He was on a wheelchair. We would have some of our classmates move him from hostel to classrooms. And you know how inaccessible our universities can be. I don't want to go into how I struggled through university myself, but sometimes when I am going to class, you know, the lecture theaters, and I'm panting. So by the way, I'm an international relations student, and we are required to take like an elective, no, it's a core course, one of the international languages, either French or
German,
Arabic, no,
or Arabic,
French or Arabic. So I would walk from my faculty to faculty of arts sometimes, and then you have to come back again for your next class, sometimes late, sometimes early, sometimes you're the last person to get into the class, and it was hectic. But then when I get tired and I'm panting, I just sometimes look up and I see him struggling to get to class. And maybe sometimes when I'm halfway to the theater hall and I look down and I see that he's just trying to get up there, I'm like, I get the motivation to keep moving, like, at least you're doing like a lot better than he is. You have more energy, so what's stopping you? And another thing is the support I got from my family. I really appreciate them for that. And I really wish she was here watching me today, my mom. She really helped me navigate everything I wanted. And I would tell people that I'm really obsessed with her. And I see her and like, I want to be like you. And she said, no, you're going to be better than me. I have nothing. You're going to be great in life. And she really invested her time in my education and anything I want to do. And I woke up to her one day and I'm like, I want to reach out to people. I know that I've had it good for a while. Yeah, she was struggling really hard to make me comfortable. But I'm like, what about people that do not have mothers? That was what I told her that then. What about people that do not have families that support? I went from one private school to another, but I told her, you're aware that people go through public schools. I want to reach out to other people. I want to be their comfort, because I would say this, most of the times I never really got the comfort I wanted from my peers, right? It was always struggling to want to belong.
Shamsia, you've identified quite a number of things. And it's beautiful you speak about your mom. I know she passed on in 2023.
Yes, she did.
And yes, don't worry, she's watching you. She's definitely watching you from where she is. You said a number of things, and I want us to just speak to them. You talk about people staring.
Yeah.
Sometimes they do it innocently, but I think it's important to let people be aware of the effect of that stare. There's no reason for you to stare, really. You just move on, because your staring most times is affecting negatively the person with disability, particularly when that stare is curious, like, oh, what's this? Who's this person? So that's one thing I want us to just hit on and reiterate for people out there. You talked about schools not being as accessible. So your school, for example, should have some sort of either a ramp, or think, oh, since we have people with disability attending this class, why should it be all the way upstairs? Is there a way we can move it to the ground floor? Maybe you can speak to some of these things specifically that should be done. And in terms of support, because you said you didn't have that peer support as well, what do you expect? Because this conversation, as much as it's shedding light on your story, how you're changing the narrative, we also want to speak to the general system, how it can be better, inclusive, and accessible to people with disability.
Okay, so there's this thing we call a attitudinal barrier, and it ranges from maybe PT, overprotectiveness, and just the feeling people have you're incapable of doing certain things. Sometimes it might come from a place of love, and sometimes not. And we all have people around us that we call toxic mentors. They feel like they really want to do good to you, but they're really affecting your self-esteem, right? So when I talk about stare, trust me, there's a particular stare you get when you walk into this room and you just have a disability, and people really want to show you that there's something wrong with you, right? I stare at people, so I've learned this: when you stare at me, I stare at you back. Yeah, we do like the long
how did you
stare.
say that, right?
Yeah, we do like the long stare, right? So when you walk into a room, I also stare at people. When you're walking into a room, I stare at you, just, okay, just wearing a pretty dress or something. But the stare of maybe someone walking in with probably a crutches, a wheelchair, or a stick to navigate his way because of his visual impairments is different. This is...
Does that look, that distinct?
Yeah, does that look, yeah. And it doesn't really help people. You're just trying to make them understand that there's really something wrong with them. So I think we would appreciate that. This is me speaking on behalf of persons with disabilities, that where you just stare, if there's a way you can move on from the staring. Do you want me to jump into the accessibility part?
Yeah, absolutely, but I want us, because we're out of time, I'm sorry, I got so engrossed in your story, and for good reason, because I think your story is really powerful and what you're doing is great. I know you're going to Germany in a few days. You've been able to help. You told me a story about someone in, I think, Nasarawa State?
Yes.
And now a child with disability, forgive me, who has been empowered with digital skills, now does graphics for the father. And you talked about a certain school, so we have about a minute to wind down.
Okay.
But I want to see how much we can pack into that 1 minute, particularly.
Oh, wow.
It's really tough, right? So it's all yours. We're totally out of time, but I want you to make that final point now.
Okay, so I got selected as one of the young global changers. 15 finalists, surprisingly, more than 4,000 applications, and I made it to the 15 finalists. And my project is my foundation. We are Special Foundation. So I was able to show the narrative, and my success story is this young lady. We met at the school. We just recently had the project called Disability Tech Project, where we empower them in digital skills, because we know about the barriers they face in terms of digital skills. So she took the graphic design course, and when we met her, she was really timid. I know, because I could see through her, because I went through that. You're just feeling left out, you're alone, you're different. And we went through this stage of training with her, and she's presently enrolled in an ICT center, continuing her training with the facilitators. So she now designs beautiful things, and I spoke to the father yesterday, surprisingly, and he's really grateful because she helps him with his social media businesses, and so we're really able to make an impact.
Amazing.
Yeah, on her.
And that just shows the potential if we're just able to pause for a moment and invest in people with disability. This by no means is the end of the conversation. It's just the start of a new chapter for you and others out there. Shamsia Omar, we have to thank you so much. She's a founder of a Special Foundation, disability right and inclusion advocate. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
We'll take a quick break now while we'll just digest that powerful conversation. And when we return, let's do AI and the big sins for you in a moment. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. So let's check on the education sector with specific focus on the impact of artificial intelligence with developments in Nigerian schools. And joining us for this conversation is someone who is very active in that space. He is Faiz Bashir, the CEO, FlexiSaf Edusoft Limited, who joins us virtually from London. Faiz, good morning and welcome to the Diaspora Connect segment on the Morning Brief. Hello Faiz, can you hear me? Hello Faiz. All right, we'll try to get Faiz as soon as possible. Hello Faiz, I believe you can hear me now.
Hello Bukola.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us on the program. So let's start with what you do at FlexiSaf Edusoft. How did you chance upon artificial intelligence for education? And talk to us about some of your tools at FlexiSaf Edusoft.
Thanks once again for having me. At FlexiSaf, we focus on using technology to transform education. Over the past decade, we've been working with schools and providing tools for students to make that happen. But very recently, as you are all aware, AI is really changing that narrative and making it even more possible to use technology to transform education. At Flex itself, we've started about 2 years ago investing in AI to provide platform that customize and build curriculum-based content for students to help them adapt to their learning needs and be able to, to fill in the gaps of access to quality content, quality education. So far, we've been working with hundreds of universities. Over 100,000 students across Nigerian universities use this platform. They access content based on NUC to help them learn better.
So when it comes to artificial intelligence, we hear tools like ChatGPT, Chatbot AI, Khan, Duolingo. Paint a canvas for us about how these learning tools is revolutionizing the learning process and eliminating the old forms of learning within the communities where your work is taking place.
To put this into context, about 2 weeks ago, a question was asked to Bill Gates that if he would choose one key transformation of AI that he is excited about, what would that be? And he said it's education. And in 1948, UN declared that education is right to everyone. And this is emphasized in SDG 4, where it emphasized equitable and inclusive quality education and promotes lifelong learning. But this has never been really possible in the history of mankind until now with AI. And what AI is able to do is that it's now possible to have this one-on-one tutor that really understands you, understands your strengths, your weaknesses, your pace of learning, your interest, and is able to personalize learning for that individual. That was not possible, or is not possible in the traditional classroom setting, and also the challenge of teacher to student ratio, where you have the best practice is less than 30, but we all know the challenge where it could be up to 1 to even 100. And for the first time, AI is making this possible, that you will have this one-to-one tutor, a tutor that extremely understands you, is able to tailor, your own learning needs and unlock your potential.
Amazing. And I believe there's so many benefits to that in terms of learning outcomes. But what about affordability where ed tech is concerned, or artificial intelligence, as the case may be? You talked about inclusive education earlier on. I imagine there are many communities in the hinterland, in the far-flung areas where these tools are not available. And perhaps in the coming years, they may have to now be playing catch-up, where their peers have advanced. What concerns do you have in that regard, and what are your recommendations, for those who can provide immediate intervention as far as that is concerned?
And again, for the first time, AI is going to make it possible to democratize education. In terms of affordability, the best analogy is telecoms. Before GSM, having access to mobile phone is quite expensive and just for a few. But because of the advancement of technology, the competition and so on, this drives down the cost of access to technology. The same thing with AI. AI is the fastest growing technology in the history of the world. And the competition, you've seen what has been happening recently with DeepSeek in China, OpenAI, Google, and so on. So it's really driving down the barrier to access. It's just like smartphones today, tools like WhatsApp is becoming a household utility. And that's where we are heading to when it comes to AI. This thing is going to be become more affordable, and it's going to help drive access to education. So in terms of what we can do to even fast track this, of course, the basic infrastructure is still important. Just like Andrew Ng, one of the professor at Stanford in AI, says AI is the new electricity. And that's where we are heading to. So we need to invest in the infrastructure early, solve the challenges of power, internet, and of course, build capacity and awareness across AI.
Of course, there's so much more to talk about. We could talk about the privacy for individual student learners and, you know, the challenges that you are encountering in the communities where you are. But we must anchor at this point so that we can, you know, get on to other conversations. But you are our man now when we want to look at issues with AI and education. Thank you so much for your time, Faiz Bashir. He is the CEO of FlexiSaff Edusoft Limited, who has joined us on our Diaspora Connect segment of this program. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And from here, we'll bring you another interesting conversation. This time, it's one of your favorites, content creation, but with specific focus on the ease of doing business in this particular area. So stay with us, you might learn a thing or two. We'll be right back.
All right, you've seen him already. Welcome back. Kosi Okereke is a filmmaker, content creator. He joins us right now, and let's explore his world. Kosi, I know that's how you should refer to you, so I'll stick to your reference.
Whatever is comfortable for you, Jeff.
Filmmaker, content creator, breaking barriers. We really, where we want to go to, if time allows us, is to look at the challenges and how you are navigating. But maybe we'll begin from how you got into the space in the first place. We like to reference history to help us contextualize the future.
All right. I would like to say this with all humility. I respect every content creator out there, no matter how authentic or to what degree their work is excellent, because content creation is a journey to a certain level of desired growth. And I started unofficially as a playwright back in secondary school, and all that experience culminated into what I started doing by communicating that art visually through content creation about 2019, 2020. And I shot a couple of skits and I said, you know what, let's take this to the next level. And I decided to go deeper into filmmaking. And one of the things I realized was that there's a wide space for content creators, especially here in Nigeria. And I mean a wide space not really in the product itself, but about the moral space, where there's a whole lot of issues happening now on the internet, and to sanitize the space. So it helps to create content that is healthy. And that's one of the things that gingered my need to further make content.
So whenever you put out the content, what do you always try to achieve? Some people want people to just chill and vibe. Others want people to laugh. Others want people to think.
Right, true.
You know, there are non-intangible references they are trying to put out there. So for you, whatever the nature of that content is, what exactly is the end game in this sense?
All right, so first of all, I will go from a very general perspective. UNESCO explains that the creative industry is any industry that combines the initial creation, subsequent production, and eventual commercialization of products that are inherently, what's it called again? That's inherently intangible. They're not physical, and they are sourced from individual creative ability. So content creation is not the way most Nigerians see it, where they say you must put up a video. Content creation is Chimamanda VDM. They are on the same spectrum. Chimamanda is a textual content creator. She creates textual content. She uses that as a channel. VDM does his own visually. Don Jazzy Whiskey, these guys do audio content. So first of all, let's
So we're all content creators.
We're all content creators.
I like.
Channels is a content, creation kind of, part of the industry because content is consumed like that digitally. So what I do when I make content, and that's why I purposely called myself a filmmaker, is that content creation allows you to sculpt culture in one way or the other, to change narratives. Most of the things we believe today stem from these things, that we watched when we were children, from Nollywood. So whenever I make a piece of content, I am trying to sell a psychological worldview or a philosophical argument. There's a picture I'm painting. So for me, it's not just about making people laugh or making people smile. It just makes the pill easier to swallow. But the idea is to sell the truth.
Yeah. And I like how you're sculpting culture, borrowing your words with foreign content and sort of introducing it into the Nigerian context and to shape, our own nuances. And I was going to ask you how you never recovered from Bridgerton.
Oh. Okay. So the Bridgerton idea came when I was in a mental limbo. Content creators have those peaks in their, creative journey where they just don't know what to do next. Yeah, and for a lot of reasons, I wasn't going there. So I just saw this opportunity, and I just got the inspiration. I said, this Bridgerton is a show that is doing well, so why not piggyback on it? And I could do accents, for a long time and all that stuff. So I just incorporated that into the whole stuff, and it did numbers.
And you've done Bridgerton of Ola of Lagos. So we'll talk about that later.
Yeah,
and
sure,
I'd like you to do the Bridgerton accent on the show, but Kayode has some questions for you. Hello, Kayode.
I mean, I like all of the seriousness and stuff, I mean, you look so serious, but come on now. This is a billionaire in transit we're talking about. That's a pastor. So how would we have you on the show today without getting a feel of all of that? You've come up with terms that a lot of people use now. I mean, King Nubus, Nige coin. It never ends. So speak to us. You can do those impressions, those accents. But how well can you do it on TV, right? So can Sackbusters show face right now?
Okay. Master, the nerves are upon us. I suggest we cut off the wires at once. Oh, Sackbusters, relax yourself. I have it all under control. Do you not know that I am a billionaire in transit? Oh, please, Sackbusters. Off with it, off with it, go now, Sackbusters. So probably something like that.
And it's really beautiful to watch.
Thank you.
And to see. And you become a hit on social media, particularly because there's a lot of depth in what you do. And it's almost like a whole movie. Watching you sometimes feels like a whole movie, or at least an episode of one of our favorite series. So how deep do you dig for your creativity? You also have the detective series and all of that. How deep do you have to dig?
Okay.
How deep do you have to dig for your creativity?
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. K. Well, for me, like I was saying earlier, it's not just about creating content. I see myself as a filmmaker, and I enjoy very cinematic themes like dialogue, and that's where I spend most of my time when I write my scripts. I like the dialogue to border around, traditional storytelling, intention, obstacle, and how the character goes around all that. So for me, scripting is usually the hard part of the work because I have to do a lot of research. And of course, the accent. I mean, every day I probably watch a video or two to help strengthen the accent.
How many accents do you have? Can you impersonate?
I can do about 5, 6.
Which are? So let's list them. One, can do British?
Yes, I can do British. And British, there's different variations. This is SSB, Standard Southern British English. Yes. But you can also, there's the Cockney from London. Yeah, the whole, so I'm what you're real good. No fam, what's it, bruv? That kind of stuff. So,
and you can do the American accent too.
Yeah,
I'd like you to record the detective part of you as well.
All right, so
you're here for work.
Well, you guys can drill me all you want. It's my turn. So, so I could do something like Black American British English. Every damn day somebody's got something happening up in the hood. I know what I'm about to tell you. You can't stand or run, but you cannot stop running. I got plans for y'all in my basement. You know, that kind of stuff. So I can do basic American announcer voice, because I started as a voiceover artist, so I can do stuff like that. Once upon a time, America had all the things it needed, but together we came to create something even more powerful.
34.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. So
it's beautiful.
Like the very early days of the BBC.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, I used to be such a sucker for 50s advertisement. You know, they could sound something like, are you tired of having every other thing except the bread you need in the morning? Why don't you try tea and bread today? Tea and bread, better for your system, sweeter for your, you know, that kind of stuff.
How many hours of your life have you spent watching Western content?
I honestly don't know. But I practice a lot. That's the difference. I don't watch movies, I study them.
All right. As we wind down now, talk to us about the challenge in the transition between dedication to content creation and then monetizing your platforms.
Dedication to content creation and monetization. This is a
in
very
1 minute.
Yes, in 1 minute. So the Nigerian government has made strides in helping content creators in very subtle ways. For example, the creation of the Federal Arts and Culture and Creative Agency in 2023. But those efforts can be improved upon. One of the things that can help content creators is, first of all, to make basic facility or equipment or resource more affordable. We're talking data.
Okay.
Yeah, data.
Okay.
Yeah.
I understand you can.
Other stuff, electricity.
I imagine he has a lot more to say.
I understand you can do French in 10 seconds. French.
Like French. I have to have breakfast. Just give me a little cheese and bread with eau de l'air so that I can enjoy myself.
Filmmaker, content creator, great thinker. You're actually a thinker. That's what you are.
Absolutely.
A thinker. Thank you so much for what you do.
My honor. Thank you.
We wish you the very best.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Thank you, Bukola. It's my pleasure being here.
It's been amazing.
Okay, absolutely. Well, that's it on the program. Thank you so much for your time. And of course, your usual company is day 2 of the week towards the end of the month. And we hope you enjoyed every bit of it. I'm Jeffrey Zama. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back again tomorrow. I am Bukola Kulka.
Not to worry, we're going to have Kosi back, or Sapastos, the detective, whatever. We're going to have him back on the show, and we'll do more of this. I'm Kayode Okikiludo. Have a great day ahead. Don't forget, Sunrise Daily is next.